In this video, we're looking at finding an unknown side of a right angle triangle. So we can use the trigonometric ratios of any angle to find the value of an unknown side in a right angle triangle, if we know the other side. So remember your trigonometric ratios are sine, cosine, tangent, and we use SO, Ka, and Toa to try to remember these ratios. Now remember, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan is opposite over adjacent. So how we find an unknown side is we identify the two labeled sides first. So what that means is we either label them as opposite, hypotenuse, or adjacent, and then using these we decide whether to use sine, cos, or tan. For example, if we had the opposite and the hypotenuse, we know that fits into our SO because O and H are only in that, so we know we're using sine. Whereas if I had the opposite and the adjacent, it would fit into here for tan. Now 2, we write an equation using the ratio, the given angle, and the variable. And finally, the last step is that we solve the equation to find the value of the variable. So let's put this into practice. So for the triangle below, which trigonometric ratio is equal to A over B? So the first thing we need to do is label our sides. Now I like to go for finding the hypotenuse or the opposite first. So we have a B there. I know it's a straight arrow from the right angle. So that's my hypotenuse. Now, because the A is between the right angle and theta, so it's a curved arrow, I know that's adjacent. So I have H and A. So over here, I'm going to write out my SO, Ka, Toa. And then what I need to do is which one of these three has an A and a H? And it looks like it's Ka. Therefore, I know the trigonometric ratio we're using is cos theta is A over B because it's adjacent over hypotenuse. All right. So now let's actually find an unknown side. So the first thing we do is start to label sides. I know I've got the hypotenuse here, and if I draw a straight line from my given angle, the 28, that's my opposite side. So again, SO, Ka, Toa. I realize we have an O and a H. So I look up here, which one of these has an O and a H? It's SO, so I know I'm dealing with sine. Alright, so what I do is I now write my equation. I know it's sine my angle, which is 28. But before I do that, I'll write this out, O over H, like that. So sine 28, because that's my angle, equals my opposite side, and in this case, that's my A. We don't know what that is. And then my hypotenuse is 18.71. Now we go back to using our skills that we learnt in equations and our inverse operations. We have a divided by there, divided by 18.71. So we need to times by 18.71, and we also times 18.71 here. These cancel out, and I'm left with 18.71 sine 28 equals A. So A is going to equal, and you just put the 18.71 sine 28 into your calculator, and then we get 8.78. Remember your units, millimeters. Okay, so we'll do another example here. Here we have our triangle. Let's label our sides. We have a straight line from the right angle, so that's a hypotenuse. And then we have a curved arrow from the 77 to the F there, so that's adjacent. We have an A and a H, so I know I'm using Ka, so cos. So we're using cos theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So we have cos 77 equals my adjacent, which is the F, over the hypotenuse, which is 8.5. Again, this is divided by 8.5, so we're going to times both sides by 8.5, and we get 8.5 cos 77 equals F. And now we use a calculator. And we get 1.91 centimeters. Okay? And remember, you're just putting this entire thing here in the calculator. Just 8.8 cos 77. Finally, we'll do our last one. Opposite, so that's O. We have a curved arrow, so that's adjacent. We have an O and an A, so I'm using TOA. So tan theta equals opposite over adjacent. So we have tan 40 equals my opposite, which was Q, over my adjacent, which is 315. We times by 315 to both sides. These cancel out. And we get 315 tan 40 equals Q. And again, you just put that straight into your calculator. And we get 264.32. Check the units, it's millimeters, so add your millimeters there. Now this also works for word problems. So here we have how far does the ladder reach up the wall. So as always, this time we're not given a letter, so we need to find one. It wants us to find how far does the ladder reach up the wall. So really we're after this distance here. So we're going to label that unknown as X. Alright, now that we know that, I have straight, so that's my opposite side. This would be our right angle. So over here we have our hypotenuse. So I have O and H, so I know I'm using SO. So sine theta equals O over H. So sine 40 equals X over 355. And as always, we times the 355 up. They cancel out, and I'm left with X equals 355 sine 40, which we put straight into the calculator. That's a 40. And we get 228.19 centimeters. Now to recap, remember you need to use your trigonometric ratios, which you can see on the screen there. Sine, cos, tan, sol, ca, toa. And finally your steps are you identify your sides first by either finding if they're adjacent, opposite, hypotenuse, write the equation, solve the equation.